Ahoy Mateys! On this episode of Bookwatch, we are setting off on a swashbuckling adventure through Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, which was first published as a book in 1883. And we are going to the far-flung future for the 2002 film adaptation Treasure Planet, directed by Ron Clements of Little Mermaid and Aladdin fame. Captain McDee is off on her own adventure this week, so mate Chris and myself are steering the ship alone. Our adventure begins right after these messages. Okie dokie, welcome back, folks. Quick little summary of Treasure Island for those of you unfamiliar. Young Jim Hawkins lives with his mother, and together they run the Benbow Inn. One day, a strange buccaneer named Billy Bones drops to their doorstep, bringing his mysterious past into the Hawkins' quiet lives. After being chased down by Billy Bones' old crew, Jim Hawkins enlists the help of a local doctor to set sail in search of Captain Flint's long-lost treasure, with the map acquired from the now-dead Bones. Alongside Captain Smollett, the ship's cook, Long John Silver, and the maroon Ben Gunn, Jim and the crew have an epic treasure hunt across Flint's Island and find a way to save the treasure and themselves to get back to the Benbow.
Well, it is an adventure, that's for sure.
Yes.
That was the book's kind of intro, and there is some few things that are a little different in the book versus the film, as far as some of that goes. He's got his father that's sick in the book. There's a part of that whole reason the doctor is there. There's a lot more time they spend with Billy Bones in the book, where there's a lot of drawn out time where he's just staying at the inn. Whereas I feel like in the film, they jump right into he just dies on their doorstep
Yeah.
and the crew comes in.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. I think you were saying that too, that you appreciated the action scenes being very punchy in this. Like just one after another it came and went, and you were kept on the edge of your seat the whole time. We've
Yeah.
barely make it out of the window at the top, and then they get going on there, figuring out how they're going to do this treasure hunt between the doctor and him. The doctor's super psyched to go on this adventure.
Yeah, the pacing is super different between the book and this version of adaptation, this movie. The book, like you said, is very slow. We're in the inn with Billy Bones for probably like weeks, if not even months. And Jim's dad dies during that time, and it's like there's like a whole ordeal. They travel to another town and back. There's a lot of exposition, that basically the movie is just like, we're gonna go ahead and skip that and get right to the treasure hunt part. So like
Which we've seen in
characters.
other things too. The 1800s films or the books were a lot of that exposition, or even not even that. It doesn't even
Yes.
have to be that old. A lot of the older books from the 50s or things like that seem to have a lot more of that exposition that has to be cut down for modern audiences. Really,
Yeah, it's those dang phones and the attention spans.
those kids,
And the movie's still from 2002, so imagine how bad it is now.
right? This is before you or I ever had phones, so.
I was
Of course,
4.
you
I
didn't see
was
this. Yeah, you didn't see this back then,
No.
so this is new
Yeah,
for you.
I literally watched this for the first time, like right now to record. Um, I was 4 years old when it came out, so yeah, it went over my head a little bit, and well, we can talk about it a little bit, but it was not really well received at the time that it came out. It was like a financial disappointment, not a lot of hype around it, not a lot of people talking about it or like praising it critically. But now like it's a cult classic, and like I did see like a lot of the comparisons are made between this and Atlantis.
They were
That
actually a part of the same production attempt.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
both being pushed by the same. It was part of a group of movies that he wanted to do, and they kind of got buried by the CEO because he didn't like them. And obviously, looking back now, we're like, well, those are some of the best films Disney put out at the
yes,
time. I mean, what I wouldn't
yeah,
give to go back and watch this again for the first time. I mean, I remember watching the trailers for this as a kid and going, that's
that looks
amazing.
so
Treasure.
yeah,
What is he doing? He's escaped, like he's snowboarding in space with a rocket
yeah,
attached to him. What is
yeah,
happening here? This is amazing.
yeah,
It was
yeah. It's
awestruck for me because I love pirates. I love all things like that. So,
yeah.
and then Cyberpunk is another one of my favorites.
I love pirates too, so I have my pirate ears here to celebrate. Um,
Perfect.
yeah, I now that I have seen this movie, I'm obsessed. I was first introduced to Treasure Island in 4th grade. We did like the whole 4th grade, all of the different classes at my elementary school, put on a stage production of Treasure Island. And that was my first introduction. So like I can still remember parts of some of the songs. I learned Pig Latin because they like added the element of like natives on the island where the treasure was, and so I got to be one of the natives. Hey, I was a lot more tan back then as a Filipino person, so they were like, "You're gonna be a native." Um,
Terrible, but okay.
it is what it is. But yeah, so that was my first introduction to Treasure Island and the story, and I've always loved historical fiction too. Like I was the English history brain person growing up, so any historical fiction, I was like, this is the best of both worlds right here. Like, and even like Magic Treehouse, like the third book in the Magic Treehouse series is a pirate story, so I love pirates. I love the mixing of like fantasy with history. Like it's so far in the past that it almost feels like another world, because it kind of is. Like the world we live in now is so different from what the pirates were living in the 1700s that it's not really comparable. So, and then this movie goes so far the other direction to this like space age, this like far-flung future where there's a whole moon that is a city, and they have, solar sails that like capture sunlight and like power these ships. It's very, very cool and really like um ingenious design for this universe and this version of it.
It all felt very industrial retrofuturism. Like it was very much like it would have a lot of mechanical elements still, but it was like all this stuff is way ahead of anything we have in our
Mm.
world. Even the way the map worked, it was like, okay, that's not projecting from anywhere. I don't know what you guys are smoking over there, but that is not how technology works. But okay, we'll let it pass.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
for
that
me,
like
I
tech
was
magic combo.
yeah. Yeah, kind of how I felt. Yeah. For me, I actually didn't ever have much exposure to Treasure Island as a story. I read that for the first time recently, and I didn't really have any other connection other than this film. And honestly, that's all I needed. But I did enjoy the story. I actually it was nice to get the full original story read, because I was like, okay, now I kind of understand where some of these elements were pulled from and why they were the way they were. And there was a few areas I might say I liked better in the book, um, but I ultimately enjoy the way these characters are portrayed, the way the relationships between characters were portrayed in the film was just a lot more heartfelt, a lot more Disney in some ways, but a lot more
Mhm.
that growth between characters and in relationships between characters.
Yeah. Well, and since you brought up the characters, as usual, our first episode is talking about the characters. So let's get into that. There's some themes and some other things that we'll talk about. Kind of, I think they'll come up naturally as we talk about the characters. So we'll
Fair.
start with Mr. Jim Hawkins himself, our protagonist. In the film, he is voiced by a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
2002 Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I
Hmm.
couldn't think of a better person to portray that character. He could have probably played a live action version of him at that time. I mean, he was
Yeah.
in his young prime like that, so it could have been perfect at the time.
Yeah, I immediately developed a crush on Jim Hawkins. As soon as I started
Me
the movie, I was like,
too.
oh, hey, same. And
It's that
I
hair,
think everybody did. Like, I mean, well, I don't want to speak for all women, but I feel like most women have that like interest or that intrigue of like the rebellious boy, like the bad boy kind of thing. And like he opens the movie like getting arrested for trespassing, and like he, like you said, he's like surfing on the air or snowboarding, some combination of those things, skateboarding, whatever. Like it's
falling with
very like,
style.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. Like it's he's just very cool, and like for me especially, like I was always the teacher's pet. Like they're not paying attention, they're not doing this, like are you going to give homework? Like I was very much the goody two shoes following the rules kid, and I like always was had an eye on the troublemaker kids, usually so that I could bust them, like Candace and Phineas and Ferb, but also because if you happen to be a troublemaker and I thought you were cute, I'm gonna let you get away with it. And I would have let Jim Hawkins get away with it if I had
I
been
don't know if
there.
we would have been friends in school or if you would have just been constantly getting me in trouble. I don't know.
It would have been the like
I was
epitome
kind of
of
yeah, sorry.
sorry. It would have been the epitome of like we're too young to understand what it means to have a crush on somebody, and so we just like I just need to be around him. All I gravitate towards him, but I hate him because you don't follow the rules. But like I like you, and I wouldn't understand it. I think that's how it would be
We
realistically.
would have just been best friends.
And then I would have hated. I would have
Yep.
love hated you too.
It would have been both. Yeah, we would have just been, hated each other till we became best friends. That's how most of my friendships happen, actually.
Well, and that's how our friendship started too. We'll get into that another
For
day.
another
But
time, yes.
I hated Chris before I even knew him, and now I love him. So what are you gonna do?
I just have that effect, One of those faces, I guess.
Literally, pretty much.
Anyways,
We need Sarah Day to keep us on track.
yeah, this is the ADHD leading the ADHD.
Sorry, guys. Anyways, the next character is
Best
Long.
episode ever.
Please, please comment that, you guys. The next character is Long John Silver, and he's voiced by Brian Murray. I thought the film portrayal was a lot more like I think you said like it was like kind of Disney-fied, and there's a lot more heartfelt, and there's a lot more depth to it than I got in the book. What did you think?
Well, I think that the making him a cyborg really added a lot of fun elements to him too. I mean, he got the character that um, you just fall in love with because he's just so charismatic. Even in the book, you had a little bit of that, like
Yes.
this guy's got the peg leg, he's got the intrigue, but in the film, he's got all these whirring and moving parts on his body too. Like his gun is in like his hand that flips around. His sword is in there somehow. He's got this leg with all these actuators and stuff. I mean, his character design is just epic, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like kind of part of how I got my my screen name I use for everything was thinking about this character as I watched this towards the earlier this year. I was like, yeah, cyborg something. I want something cyborg in my screen name of Cyborg Knight was kind of an amalgamation of some of the cyborg characters and wanting some sort of knight like castle-y,
Yeah.
renaissance-y character, but with some of that techie stuff. So it kind of
Yeah.
came from watching this and a few other things. And so
That's cool.
his character is definitely a really cool design.
Yeah, I really like how because the character in the book is like, watch out for the man with the peg leg, with the wooden leg. So I like how they were able
Kept that
to,
going.
yeah, they kept it going, but still made it like appropriate. Like it would have made no sense for his leg to be made out of wood in this universe because it's so spacey and futuristic. So making it all like metal and like you said, like making him a cyborg android, not android, a cyborg. Um, like it really made sense and it really fit. And then I
Definitely.
like how they also added the laser eye
Yep.
thing.
Having the, yeah,
Yeah, that
almost
was
like an
cool.
eye patch for a pirate, but in his case, he
Yeah,
actually had like the ability to use it as like a sight and all that.
yeah, that's really cool. All right, moving along, we've got in the book the character is called Dr. Livesey. In the film, it's changed to Dr. Doppler, and the voice is David Hyde Pierce. I thought this. We'll talk more like in depth of different character arcs, but this character in the movie kind of had a couple of different characters like all squished into one.
And that
So
happened
we've
a couple
got
times.
yeah. So we've kind of got some facets of like Dr. Livesey from the book in there, but also not really because there's a whole line which is funny about how he's not actually a doctor. He just has a doctorate in astronomy versus Dr. Livesey in the book actually is a medical doctor, and when people are injured throughout the story, he is actually able to provide medical aid to them, like over the course of the adventure.
And in a lot
Um,
of the 1800 time frame, you may have been the doctor, but also been the person, the man of science, the person who was
yes,
actually doing astronomy and doing these things. So it wouldn't have been
yes,
surprising for your doctor, your ship doctor, to also be really good with that sort of thing. So I think it fit the book, but
hmm
definitely was an entertaining way to put it
yeah,
in the movie here in the time
yeah.
frame.
His whole little explanation. I'm like, I'm a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate, which basically means I'm useless. Very funny. I love that one a lot.
Well portrayed, such a good performance by that actor. I felt like he did a great job with his
Yeah.
mannerisms and the way he,
Hmm.
his little flirty moments here and there with
Yeah.
both the captain. And I even felt like there was a few moments where he was kind of flirting with Jim's mom, and it was just kind
Yep.
of like he was almost a little bit of the player character in the whole thing, of just
Yeah.
uh, kind of flirted with everybody, but also just a really good guy. And so it was like he never was going anywhere, but he was always
Yeah.
kind of attempting to court people. And so it's kind
Yeah.
of an entertaining way for that character to be shown here.
Yeah. And then another book character that he has some parts of their personality in him is Squire Trelawney. And so Squire Trelawney is just another character in the book, that another trusted adult, trusted man that Jim has going on the journey. He's the financier, like Dr. Doppler is in the movie. He pays for everything for the trip, he funds it all. He also has a big mouth and is like yapping about the treasure map, which kind of like gets the crew riled up and leads to the mutiny happening at the time that it happens and all of that stuff. Another part of Squire Trelawney is that Bro can shoot. He's really good with a pistol, and that trait kind of goes into Captain Amelia in the movie, who is a combination of, like I said, Squire Trelawney and Captain Smollett from the book, who is the captain of the ship. So, what do we think of Emma Thompson as Captain Amelia?
Amazing. She did a great job with that. I mean, what you said, we were talking earlier a little bit as we were watching, and you were saying there wasn't very much female presence in the whole book, which for the
Mm-hmm.
time frame made sense. But I loved that we got this change in this time frame style of this film to having a female captain. It just made for a much more like, oh, all right, she's in
Yeah,
charge. I see. Okay, and yes, ma'am. All right. Just you kind of
yeah,
changes the dynamic entirely, and it was just in such a great way. I
yeah.
loved it.
I fancy myself a well-spoken, big vocabulary person. I think I learned like three new words from her in this movie. Like
Jordan's going
how
back to
she,
school on Monday, and she's gonna start telling the kids, "You'll be addressing me as ma'am or captain from now on."
and you know what? Maybe I should, because it's getting
Maybe you
towards the end of
should.
the year, and they are acting like a bunch of pirates. It's ridiculous.
You're gonna have a mutiny on your hands.
I feel like I have a little bit, but it's okay. I'll get them back. Don't you worry.
All right, all right.
But
Yes, I
yeah,
thought she was great.
and I, like you said, I loved having another like, well, and even the mom character, Sarah Hawkins, she's voiced by Laurie Metcalf. I think the changes in her character too are really telling of the time in which this was made. And keep in mind, this was still 20 years ago in 2002. Imagine if this was made now, how many more female characters there would be.
You
um
notice they still don't have a dad for him in this story. Like you see him here and there,
yes.
but it's like the Disney thing of there's never a dad in these stories is
Or at
present
least you
here.
can't have both. You can't have a mom and a
Or yeah,
dad.
right. You had yeah, it's one or the other.
Somebody's got to be
Like
gone.
until Inside Out or something like that. You never
Yeah.
see any both of them.
But I kind of liked that change for all of their characters in the book. I don't know, in the book, and I think it's kind of telling of the time too, but like in the book, like Jim is kind of a wimp at the start, and like his mom is just like, she barely had, I think she's got like probably three lines, like she's not prominent at all. All of the action is happening with Jim and the male pirates, and then Jim and the male doctor and the Squire Trelawney. Like it's all obviously very like male centric because it's, hey, it's written in 1883. And it was based on, 100 years ago, the golden age of pirates, which is like the 1750s, 60s. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of dudes running around. But the modern interpretation of that, or instead of Jim's dad dying of whatever illness he has, he abandons them, he leaves the family, and now instead of being like this woman who's fainting at like, oh, there's pirates in the inn, oh, like it's, she is like, no, I'm a single parent to this kid. And instead of being like, whatever you say, mom, like little, like more, I thought Jim in the book was younger, but in this movie he seems to be like 19, 20-ish, maybe 18, somewhere
I
between
think
like
16 when we see them go
really.
off with 16. It's what I think they
Ooh, my
say at
bad.
one point.
Maybe
Um
that was just wishful thinking. Sorry. Um,
You just aged him up to get a little closer to where you want him
Oh,
to be.
sorry. Um, that's made me uncomfortable with myself. I'm sorry, guys. Um, so he's like 16, but he's much more in the book. I thought of him as being younger, like 12, 13, like still very much a little kid versus the 16 or whatever he is in the movie. Like this is a young man. He's growing into being a man, being the man of the house, and like he's a rebellious teen. And a lot of that is because his dad abandoned them. So I like the changes of these female characters, like the captain becoming a female, and then the existing female character like getting more depth and more
Agency. Yeah.
agency. Yeah, and like just having the choice of like, I gotta take care of my kid, I have to manage this business. Like she's working her tail off to take care of everything. And so I appreciated that from my modern woman perspective.
Now, I think I just remembered we need to go back to the very beginning of the film here and little tiny Jim. You saw that book he was reading? It was like an audio book, video book
It was
that
epic.
was reading to
Oh,
him. I was like, I want that thing. It's like
yeah.
a movie in your book.
That was super cool. I wish that that was a thing so I could like watch the movie
It's
as the
it's
book is
super
being read to
impractical,
me.
unpractical, but
No.
it's such a cool design choice for this sort of story.
Yeah, I
I
really
love it.
liked it. And I liked how it establishes more clearly the relationship between Jim and his mom. Like
Hmm.
he loves his mom. He is a mama's boy through and through, and she loves him, and she's willing to, she can I think she can kind of tell. I'm reading into the character, by the way. I think she can kind of tell like through all of his actions of like trespassing and like breaking the laws and stuff, like he needs to get out and do something bigger with his life than just run the inn. And I think that's why part of why she's so easily persuaded to let him run off with the doctor and like go on this adventure. Besides the fact that they desperately need the money since the pirates burned their place to the ground.
And who hasn't had the experience of reading under their covers after their mom tells them to go to bed?
I I certainly did all the time.
Do we
Darn.
heard it? We heard it. Do still do.
Sorry to my
Just get the
husband. I'm
get the
still
Kindle out
reading.
now.
Yes, no, literally. Yeah, no, my punishment when I was a kid, like most kids get sent to your room, and I was like, good, that's where all my
Okay.
books are.
Yeah.
This is great. Oh, you mean I'm gonna be in my room with my books and be uninterrupted for 3 hours? Oh no.
That's
So
where all
my
my cool
punishment was
stuff
not
is.
being allowed to read
Ooh,
when I was a kid.
ouch.
That was brutal. But
Here we are
now I'm
now.
here. All right, we've gotta stay focused, Chris.
Eh. We don't got our rudder here. We're good. We can do whatever we want. We're in charge.
we've we've established a mutiny.
We've mutinied against Saturday. She's gonna come back to a crew of pirates on this podcast here.
Yep. Backtracking a little bit, the character of Billy Bones, he's on screen for 2 minutes, not even, voiced by Patrick McGowan. And we'll talk about Mr. Arrow, the first mate. He's voiced by Roscoe Lee Brown. Again, very little screen time, but I was sad when he died, and I didn't like it.
You get a little attached to him. Yeah, he's a.
Yeah.
So what we kind of bypass as we talk about these is some of the characters are dogs. They're just anthropomorphized dogs, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
obviously we
like
have
Captain
other
Amelia's a
ones.
cat.
Yeah, cats, dogs. I felt like the Arrow was more. His character was more like the loyal dog, and like a big brute of a dog, but loyal dog. I felt like from him as
I
well
thought
as
he was
the
like a
doctor.
rock thing.
I don't think so. I think he was meant to be like maybe he had a little bit of that rocking to the type of character he was, but it felt
Yeah.
very much like a loyal like big dog of
Totally.
some sort to me. So and then
Absolutely.
the doctor was a dog, and not
Yeah.
everybody. They like Jim and his mom weren't animals. The
They're just
but you
humans.
got the spider characters and a bunch of these other weird alien characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird thing where you don't even notice after a little while some of these things like that these characters were meant to be anthropomorphized other creatures, but
Yeah.
it's just something you have to point out that definitely there was some weird little choices of character design here that I'm like, okay, whatever.
I love the character design. Again, like
It was great.
it's spacey, it's futuristic. So like yeah, of course there's going to be aliens and they're going to be like you said, anthropomorphized animals. Some of them are just like weird monster alien looking creatures, and they all fit and they all made sense. And I was like, yeah, of course the spider guy is going to be the main guy trying to come at Jim and like cause problems. His name was Scroop, and he was voiced by Michael Wincott, and he was kind of a rip on Israel Hands from the book, lol Hands, because he's a spider, he's got 8 legs. And as well as like any number of the other like background pirate crew could be scooped into Mr. Scroop.
My favorite one of the aliens was from the movie was the one that was the head that climbed out the body, and then the body and him are hanging out together next to each other with
Yeah,
a face on the body. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, you're two people,
yeah,
okay.
that was fun.
And Pirates
Uh,
did the same thing with Pirates of the Caribbean. There was that character that was the body that the head that became a crab or
oh,
whatever. But so I think
yes,
some of these things were stolen by Disney for other things a little bit here and there with
yeah,
pirates and things.
for sure. I think my favorite alien was Morph. He's just
Morph
the
is
cutest little
definitely just
guy.
adorable.
And I love how
And
he had his own kind of like moral code where he was like, Long John Silver's kind of not, I don't like what he's doing. I'm gonna go hang out with Jim. And then, like, oh, but I love my dad. I love Long John. So I'm gonna go back. And I like how he kept like
kind of
switching
waffles
sides. And
between.
yeah, and it never felt malicious either way. He just was very like, I feel like doing this. And oh, very ADHD. Like, I want to do this. Oh, just kidding. I want to do this. I'm over here and I'm back and forth and all over the place.
Which is a huge distinction from the parrot that was in the film. That was just like it
Yeah.
used to belong to like the other guy. I think the bat or the main pirate that um was
Captain Flint.
Clint. Yeah, I think it was his bird. And it was just
The
a
parrot's name is
belligerent.
Captain Flint. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was definitely a whole different dynamic to Morph, who is a much more lovey character that just
Yeah.
makes you fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Then I think the
And
only other one from our list that we haven't talked about is Ben Gunn, or Ben, played by Martin Short.
yes.
Now, you didn't care for him at first. You were annoyed by him.
No, I hate the trope of like we're in a survival situation, we have to be quiet, we have to be stealthy, and somebody's just like, "What's that over there?" like super loud and like giving away our position. That's a trope like we see it in The Walking Dead and like all sorts of like horror and survival films and shows, and I hate it. So I was very anti Ben at the early on, and then over time I'm like he grew on me and he got less annoying, and by the end I was like, oh, a buddy, he's working in the inn, he's helping out. Like he went from being marooned and alone and losing his mind to like finding a family and a purpose, and I thought that was a nice thing for him to have.
Well, and him being a robot in this made it like I was telling, when I was reading the book, I commented on it to you and Sarah Day that it actually makes a whole lot more sense for him to have been stranded here for 100 years as just this robot
Yeah,
that is can't die, so he's just stuck here
yeah,
as this person that's here once you get here, but without his memory, and then the
yeah,
MacGuffin of him finding his memory once they get in, and that's what kind of allows them to finally realize, oh, it's a trap. Works really well.
yeah.
And honestly, I loved this performance from Martin Short. It sounded like Robin Williams' Genie to me. I was just like, oh, this could easily have been a Robin Williams role that he could have done an amazing
Hmm.
job with too. But and the Ron or the Clemens guy did do Aladdin as well. So he's
Yes.
worked with both these. So it's kind of probably pulled some of those same elements from the characters. But I just
Yeah.
loved it. I think Ben was a lot of fun and did have a really interesting arc over the course of the thing. I mean, at the end of it,
Hmm.
he's doing the robot and the dancing and the back in the house. It's just cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the characters just the way the book is written is it's a lot of like we said, it's a lot of exposition, it's a lot of description, uh and a lot of like not a lot of like internal monologue and like what people are feeling, and um not even a lot of dialogue. I felt like it was not as dialogue heavy as I feel most modern books are. So to have the film where like and especially too like visually you can see people's facial expressions, and like you when the mutiny is happening. You can see the hurt on Jim's face that Long John is betraying him. He feels he's devastated. You can see that on his face, and you can hear that in his voice a lot more than the way it's described in the book is very like, and then Long John betrayed me and I didn't like it and then we moved on. Like it felt there's a lot more like richness of character through this medium, I felt.
I agree. I think the two other main things we need to talk about is one, the animation style, the
Mm,
way they did this. I mean, there's a few moments in the film where I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in a video game, like an old computer game where they're just panning
yes.
around a 3D environment. So, and I know they had a few of those 3D animation styles pushed in there. So it's like, okay, I see these things, but I am totally okay with it because you still gave me such cool visuals and everything else. So I was
Hmm.
okay with panning around a space and feeling like I was in this 3D environment. But I think it was leading somewhere really well. Good. It was doing a good job of continuing on this type of animation style before they ultimately killed it.
Yeah,
Um,
I much prefer the 2D animation style. I'm sure most of that is nostalgia because I was born in 1998. Like I think that was the year that The Lion King came out, and so like though that like Renaissance era of Disney films of like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Hercules, like Little Mermaid, Lion King, this Atlantis, like this era of 2D animation, like is what I grew up on, and so it's always my preferred choice. I also just I don't like the modern like Pixar potato people thing. That's not my jam. And like I think somewhere in between that is okay, like Frozen or
sure.
Tangled, like the in between 3D animation, I don't mind. Certainly like Tangled is one of my favorite movies, but when I sit down, I'm like, I'm kind of in the mood for an animated movie. What am I gonna watch? 9 out of 10 times, it's gonna be some something like this 2D animation, because it just feels better to me.
Reminds me, based on the time frame, I do need to get this movie on VHS in my collection. I need to find a really pristine copy of this to put on the shelf because this is definitely
Hmm.
one that I love this film and I want that VHS copy and sitting on my shelf. So
Yes.
someday I can torture my kid with rewinding the movie over
good
and over again.
good luck in your Goodwill search, my friend.
Thank you, thank you. So last thing would be Jim and Silver's relationship. We've kind of talked about
Hmm.
some of that. We could save it for next week's plot storyline. There's a lot there that we could go into each moment,
Yeah.
or if you want to discuss anything about that relationship and how much we loved it, or how much
Yeah.
how the dynamic of it went.
Just a little bit. I I like the movie version of it more again because we get the depth of the character. We get to see Long John's face and get more of those moments where again in the book it feels very dry of like, well, I didn't mean it. Like I'm just telling them what I need to tell them to survive. Like he's ultimately, I don't even think that Long John as a character in the book or the movie is very malicious. He's just very selfish. And the selfishness came off a lot harsher in the book versus the movie. It was like, yes, it's more devastating, but it's softer because we get the whole montage of all of these things that Jim is learning from Long John and it's directly compared. It keeps switching from the flashbacks of Jim's dad and all the things that his dad didn't teach him and that he didn't do with him.
Right.
And so that like verse, and again that's happening while they're traveling to Treasure Planet versus in the book on their way to Treasure Island. It's just like, yes, and we sailed for 3 days or weeks or whatever, and then we got there, and then this is what happened when we got there. And so you don't get that time again, like the way that I think modern books do a better job of like building that relationship and like going in depth of who these people are and what their dynamic is. And the movie I think did that really really well. And so I guess the movie was like better in the book that way, even though I hate to say it, but
Well, to me, Long John Silver saw himself in Jim. Jim was the version of him he wished he could be. So he was constantly trying to push Jim to be
mm-hmm.
more, to be better than him, to follow in these footsteps, but do it better. become a
Mm-hmm.
pirate or become, start working on these riches, find, love, all this. He was telling him all these stories in both mediums. The book
Mm-hmm.
had Long John had his wife, and he was telling him stories about at times. There was these comparisons of both were pushing him to be the better version of Long John Silver. So
Yeah.
yes, selfish, but I think he really was sincere when it came to Jim because he saw himself.
Yeah. And I think maybe not like the point of the book, but like something that you can take away from the book is that good people can do bad things. Like Jim is the protagonist. He's a good guy. He kills somebody straight up in the book. He shoots him. And in this movie, there's something similar, not quite as violent, but somebody dies directly as a result of something that Jim does. And so good people can do bad things, and then I think ultimately Long John Silver is a bad person, but he can still do good things, and there can still be redeeming qualities in him. I mean, he has the opportunity, probably for sure once they make it very obvious, but probably multiple times where he could have killed Jim or let Jim die at the hands of another pirate, and he saves him. He goes out of his way, risking himself and his plot to save Jim. And so bad people, that kind of nuance in a character is really valuable, and it inspires, I think, a lot of the anti-hero type of character. I mean, just with pirates alone, like Jack Sparrow, he's a pirate, he's a bad guy, he's done a lot of bad things, but he became a pirate because he was freeing slaves in the slave trade, and he
Depending on which
saved.
film you pull your lore from, since they kind of ruined it with that fourth film or fifth
I'm
film.
not. It doesn't exist. Not real. Hey, that doesn't exist. um 1 through 3, truth only.
Fair enough.
um but like, he's a pirate, he's done a lot of bad things, but he can still do good things too. You can have both, and all of us are made up of both. And so I think that, Treasure Island has a lot to say, actually, even though it's from 200 years ago.
Yep.
Right. Do we have anything else we want to chat about with the characters, or are we ready to roll out?
I think we've droned on for quite long enough, talking about how much we love all these adaptations of these characters. So I think
Okay.
next week we'll go through that plot, and I think we're in a really good spot right now.
All right. Well, Sarah D, we missed ya. Captain McDee, we missed you, bud. Can't wait to have our captain back on our ship. And be sure to like and subscribe, mateys. And we'll see you next week.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Bookwatch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.